As I was doing research for purposes of my videos, I came up to one article that includes 20 pages of detailed outline for the 7th episode. Before I introduce you with this detailed outline for the season finale, let me just say that beside those 20 pages regarding the 7th episode, there was also a detailed outline of every episode of the season which proved to be quite accurate. If you don't want anything spoiled, it's time for you to close this video. Episode starts with the Lannister armies being deployed in force around and on the city walls. Bronn finishes overseeing their placement from the battlements. He looks out upon several thousand unsullied troops commanded by Grey Worm, arrayed in perfect formation a few hundred yards away. Bronn moves along the battlements to join Jaime. Bronn reveals that when it comes to siege preparations, he prefers being on the offensive side of things. Jaime hopes it will not come to an actual siege for all their sakes. Together they watch from the walls as the Dothraki horde break the horizon and converge upon a city 10,000 screamers strong. The Dothraki pour through the gaps in the unsullied formations. Their passage does not cause a single unsullied flinch. The Dothraki present their customary show of strength before the city walls. Bronn then decides he really doesn't want a siege either. Dany's flagship sails into Blackwater Bay with her fleet. Daenerys is not on her flagship, but her whole team and her allies are Jon, Davos, Tyrion, Jorah, Varys, Missandei, Theon. They approach the flagship's islands resting at the head of Euron Greyjoy's fleet. Euron has cordoned off the mouth of the Blackwater using a heavy, thick chain. Dany's ships cannot pass unless Euron lets them. Theon looks nervously at his uncle's fleet, wondering out loud when Dany is coming. Jorah promises him she'll be there, stating that she said she'd be here and Dany does what she says. Jon and Tyrion watch the approaching city. One is a returning exile and the other has never been to the capital in his life, or any large city for that matter. Jon asks, how many people live here? Tyrion replies, 1 million give or take. Jon tries to get his head around the notion of 1 million people in one place and why anyone would want to live that way. The food Tyrion offers. Then he continues, and the brothels, both far superior. But I doubt we'll be here for long enough to taste much of the former. And I would guess you're not interested in tasting the latter, so your experience of the capital will largely be limited to my family. By the time we're done, you'll be very happy to get back to the White Walkers. In a corridor below Dax, the Hound approaches a closed door. He stands in front of it and listens to the silence. He taps on the door once, quietly. A barrage of thumping and snarling explodes from behind the door. Satisfied that their precious cargo is undead and well, the Hound walks away. The Hound reemerges on deck, joining the others. Dany's flagship stops as it approaches silence. Euron steps onto the deck of his ship and looks at them for a tense moment. Then he gives a word to his captain, who relays it to the rest of the fleet. The chain drops, allowing Dany's ship to pass through. As they pass, the ships come so close to each other. Euron's polite right this way gesture gives Jon and company pause. Euron gives special smile to Theon. Cersei prepares for the summit with Qyburn. The sun is nearing its peak, the appointed time has almost arrived. Cersei asks if anyone has seen Daenerys yet and Qyburn replies with, no, not yet. But Jon Snow, Tyrion and all of Dany's trusted allies and advisors are on their way to the Dragon Pit. They discuss a scenario of mutually assured destruction. If Cersei were to harm Dany or her advisors in any way, her dragons can lay waste to all of them. And once they're all in the Dragon Pit, if Dany tries to inflict death from above, Ser Gregor has his orders, he will immediately execute the Dragon Queen's entire command structure, beginning with Dany herself. Qyburn is duty-bound to point out that a third outline or option remains for the Dragon Queen. Qyburn says Daenerys could not go to the Dragon Pit at all, fly in with her dragons and kill everyone inside the Dragon Pit, allies and enemies alike, which would leave Dany the only power left in the game. Cersei is confident this will not happen. Cersei states that Dany is the breaker of chains, the Queen of Meereen who liberated Slaver's Bay. She may rule 3 huge beasts and hordes of foreign savages and eunuchs, but she is a slave to the titles she has bestowed upon herself and the legend they perpetuate. Without them, she is nothing but an invader, and faced with invaders, people always fall back on the rulers they know. People don't remember those rulers were invaders themselves not so long ago, because people are sheep with tiny sheep brains. With the Mountain and the Queen's Guard in tow, Cersei and Qyburn head off to the Dragon Pit. The Dragon Pit's bronze main doors with dragon reliefs have been sealed for hundreds of years, and now Lannister troops are opening them again for Tyrion, Jon and company who approach on the main road. Dany is still not here. The Hound brings up the rear of the procession, walking alongside a covered wagon. Bronn meets them at the door. On the way through the covered backstage colonnade area to the main floor, Bronn and Tyrion speak. They made this happen. Maybe it will even work. Bronn sincerely hopes so and also says, by my reckoning between you and your brother, I'm out the castle and wife for every day of the week. Don't think I'm likely to collect if you murder each other. Tyrion then asks if Cersei is here, and Bran replies she is. Bran asks after Dany and Tyrion replies she's coming. Bran recounts seeing Dany and says, quite a woman, almost turned Jaime into charcoal. Tyrion tries to tell Bran that Dany is the best chance they have to make the next 100 years different from the last 100, which leaves Bran surprised. Bran says, she was nice to look at, though from what I could make out while she was roasting us alive. Bran also asks Tyrion if he has any luck with her. Tyrion's expression protests, but Bran says, don't pretend with me, I know what you like. Bran looks over his shoulder at Jon Snow and says, handsome brother, and asks Tyrion if the Dragon Queen has any intimate relationships with him. Bran says, he's what they go for, him and your brother, not us. We're never the one they go for, we're the other one. Bran catches sight of Jorah. Tyrion tells Bran who he is, reminding him that Jorah started out informing on Dany for Robert, on which Bran replies with, and now he's just like you, soon she'll have a whole string of you, following her around like baby ducks. They emerge into the center of the Dragon Pit. Cersei has not made any big preparations, just the appropriate number of chairs, grouped according to allegiance, arrayed in a circle in the center of Dragon Pit. Cersei is already waiting, sitting with Jaime, Qyburn, Euron and the Mountain, and the entirety of her Queensguard. Jon and Davos find their way to their own space. A semicircle of chairs awaits Dany's loyalists, but Dany herself is still nowhere to be seen. When Cersei realizes this, she's not happy since she does not like to wait for someone. Cersei is preparing to leave when Daenerys arrives on Drogon with Rhaegal in tow. The crumbled edge of the pit crumbles further when Drogon sets down. Dany climbs down his wing and makes her way towards the main floor. Drogon takes off to the air again to join his brother, the two of them rising in gyres to the sky overhead, but the whole time remaining in sight. Most are cowed by the sight of these beasts, but Cersei is not. All she displays is disdain for theatricality of the gesture. As Dany takes her seat opposite Cersei in the circle, Bran gives Tyrion a parting piece of advice. You're better off not wanting a girl like that. A girl like this is not manageable. Cersei then says, shall we begin? Some of us have been here for some time. On Dany's prompting, Tyrion is about to begin, but before he can make it to the center of the circle to kick things off, Euron stands up and says, I'll start. Euron calls out Theon publicly. He has Theon's sister alive and he threatens to kill Yara if Theon does not submit to him here and now. Tyrion looks to Jaime like who this guy think he is, and from Jaime's expression Tyrion sees that Jaime is not in good relations with the Lannisters' only ally. I think we ought to begin with larger concerns, Tyrion says, on which Euron replies with, then why are you talking? Euron makes a casual threat to Tyrion. Bran comes a bit closer to the circle, ready to kill the Ironborn if he has to. Cersei shuts them all up. Tyrion says, as this recent display has shown, this is a group of people who do not like each other. They have suffered tragedies at each other's hands. They have lost people at each other's hands. If all each party wanted was more of the same, there would be no need for this summit. They're more than capable of waging war against each other without meeting face to face. Cersei replies with, so instead we're going to settle our differences once and for all and live together in harmony for the rest of our days. Jon takes the floor and says, we all know that will never happen, and continues with, this isn't about that. This is about what's coming for all of us. A general you can't talk to and can't reason with. An army you can't kill because they are already dead, and when they fight men, they don't leave corpses on the battlefield. Lord Tyrion tells me 1 million people live in this city. They're about to become 1 million more soldiers in the army of the dead. Cersei then says, for most of them I imagine it would be an improvement. Jon replies with, I've seen them, this is serious. I would not be here speaking to you if it wasn't. I don't think it's serious at all, I think it's a joke. Cersei says and continues, if my brother has informed me correctly, you're asking me to send the Lannister armies all the way north. How convenient would that be for you, if I went on a big Grumpkin hunt and left the capital, my capital, unprotected? All on the word of a would-be usurper. The use of that word nearly set Dany off, but Tyrion calms her down. Clearly, the time for talking has ended. He signals for the Hound with the captive White to be brought into the Dragon Pit. The Hound steps into the Dragon Pit and he sees his brother behind the Queen. Upon bringing a captured White to the center, he releases it so everyone could see for themselves that the threat is real. The White sees Cersei first and charges. Even though the Mountain steps in front of Cersei and draws his sword, ready to slice the thing in two, there is no need for a fight since the Hound has the White chained and he simply pulls it to the ground. The White then comes for the Hound, who draws his sword and cuts the White in half. Its legs continue kicking and its torso keeps coming for the Hound. The demonstration has desired effect on Cersei, shaking her in a way few things can. Everyone else who has never seen one of these things is shocked as well, except for Qyburn, who picks up the still moving hand and beholds it with fascination. We can destroy them by burning them, Jon says and uses a torch to burn the disembodied pieces of the White, including the hand he takes from the Qyburn. and we can destroy them with Dragonglass. John continues and draws a Dragonglass dagger. John says if we don't win this fight, that, pointing to the White's torso as it crawls towards him with its single arm, is the fate of every person in the world. When the White torso reaches him, he stabs it with the Dragonglass, ending the demonstration. Okay guys, this would be the first part, while the second half is currently in the process and will be released as soon as possible. Make sure you stay tuned for the second part, because it's by far more exciting than the first half.